Sir, officer, there's a man up there with a turban, and he's videoing, and I don't know what he's doing, and he's really making me nervous.
Okay, all right. You know what? Why don't you just hang down here? We'll go check it out. Okay?
Thank you.
Sir, can you hold on a second?
Sure.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Got a report of suspicious activity. Can you tell me what you're doing here?
I'm sightseeing here, and I'm here with my family. And I am a off-duty police officer. I'm a reserve deputy sheriff at the LA County Sheriff Department.
Okay. Do you have any your credentials on you?
Sure, I do.
Mind if we take a look?
Sure. Here you go.
Okay. All right, great.
Sorry for any inconvenience.
Hey, enjoy yourself.
I mean, being a Sikh American, I get that a lot.
Oh, I understand.
Hey, no problem.
Officer safety is the first priority. However, in order to be safe and effective, officers must be able to differentiate between a threat and a stereotype. Under emergency circumstances, events always determine an officer's response. This presentation will address only non-emergency and non-crisis situations and provide guidelines to effectively recognize and interact with members of the Sikh American community.
Sikh Americans are often misidentified by fellow Americans because we're sensory people, and sight and sound are our first impulses that we look at, and we process differences before similarities. And the reality of that is, if we don't understand what the differences signify, that there's a mystery to that. And sometimes mystery can breed misunderstanding, misinformation, and sometimes it keeps us from meeting each other on common ground.
Since 9/11, there has been a sharp increase in hate crimes and hate incidents directed at Sikhs throughout the United States.
Balbir Singh Sodhi from Mesa, Arizona, who was killed on September 15th, 2001, by someone who mistook him to be somehow related to those who carried out the horrible terrorist acts on our country.
So who exactly are Sikh Americans? Sikh Americans belong to the youngest of the major world religions, called Sikhism. Sikhism originated in the Indian subcontinent over 500 years ago. There are 25 million Sikhs across the globe, making Sikhism the world's fifth largest religion. Today, there are over 500,000 Sikhs in the United States.
To be a Sikh is to be a seeker of the truth. That's a literal translation.
Sikhism is distinctly separate from Hinduism and Islam.
One of the other unique things about Sikhs that most people are not aware of is the fact that Sikh men share the same common middle or last name, and that is Singh. Singh means lion. Similarly, Sikh women share the same common middle or last name, Kaur, which means princess.
Sikh Americans arrived to the shores of the United States over 100 years ago, in the late 1890s. Sikh Americans have made countless contributions to the United States. Sikh Americans fought in the first two world wars. And in fact, the first Asian American elected to Congress was a Sikh American from California in 1956. Sikh Americans are integral part of the United States society. We work in all types of professions. We are in the fields of medicine, of law, of transportation. You'll see a Sikh cab driver as well as you'll see a Sikh, finance person, or your local doctor could be a Sikh American.
Most Americans are unaware of the fact that the vast majority of men with turbans and beards in the United States are Sikhs, not Muslims or Arabs. Sikhs are not from the Middle East. Their historic origins are in northern India.
Community policing is about problem solving and working in partnership with the community. Having knowledge of a culture and an awareness of what to expect from a culture as far as implements that might be with a culture is very important, and it'll increase the safety of the officer and again increase the safety of the general community at large.
Sikhs stand out in a crowd based on their distinctive outward and visible appearance.
It's a post-9/11 world where we are under different stresses. We have different perceptions from law enforcement and different entities that are constantly processing information. So the purpose is to keep things as clean and as precise and as accurate as possible so that there are no misunderstandings.
The physical Sikh identity is defined by 5 articles of faith and the turban. Sikhs take a religious vow to lead a life of physical and spiritual discipline by wearing the turban and the 5 mandated articles of faith. All 5 articles of faith are worn by most Sikh men and women. Each article of faith is highly revered and has deep spiritual significance. The first article of faith is the kara and is a steel bracelet worn around the wrist. It signifies strength and unity with God and reminds Sikhs of ideal behavior. Avoid forcibly removing the kara. Some Sikhs may have worn it for many years, and so removal may not be possible. In such cases, hand wand inspections are recommended. The second article of faith is a small wooden comb called a kanga. It is worn in the hair to keep it groomed and represents cleanliness and discipline. The third article of faith is a kachera, or undershorts. It signifies self-restraint and high moral character. The fourth article of faith is called the kirpan. It signifies Sikhs' commitment to truth and justice. The kirpan is worn in a sash over the shoulder and to the side of the waist. Some Sikhs wear the kirpan over their clothing in public view. The kirpan typically has a steel handle with a blade that may be dull. It is kept in a wooden or steel sheath. A kirpan is commonly 3 to 6 inches in length. However, since there is no prescribed length for the kirpan, the size of the kirpan varies by personal choice. Guidelines for wearing the kirpan vary by state statute and municipal code. Supervisors are encouraged to have a discussion with officers about their jurisdiction's codes and policies regarding the kirpan, an article of faith. Current Transportation Security Administration and Department of Transportation guidelines prohibit kirpans on flights. Hence, Sikhs stow their kirpan in checked baggage during air travel. Do not be surprised by the presence of a kirpan on some Sikh men and women. If the kirpan must be confiscated, explain the reason. Handle the kirpan with respect and care.
Charlie 13. I'm in the area, 10-5. Maryland tag. Yes, ma'am. I'll advise. I'm okay.
Good evening, officer.
How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
Pretty good. What you got around your neck?
Oh, this is my religious art. It's called the kirpan.
Do me a favor.
It's part of my
Yes, sir.
Sikh faith. Yeah.
Will you walk this way for a second?
Sure.
Feel more comfortable, you take it off. Put it here on the hood for me, please.
Okay.
Can you back up for me for a second? Sure. Anyone else in the car?
No, I'm alone.
I'm a county police officer. The reason I'm here is we got a complaint from the neighborhood. What's going on?
Oh, my car just stalled. I was trying to figure out what was going on, so I was looking under the hood.
Okay, what I'll do for you to assist you, I'll call a tow truck for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm gonna give you this back, and you can wait right by your car, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, 13, could you get the tow truck here for me, please? Thank you. Sir, I got a tow truck coming.
Okay. Thank you. I'll wait here.
Welcome.
The fifth and last article of faith is the kesh, meaning hair, and refers to the uncut hair and beard of a Sikh. Avoid forcibly cutting, trimming, or pulling any part of a Sikh's hair or beard. Sikh men groom their hair into a top knot. Additionally, Sikh men either groom their beard and tuck it under the chin, or choose to leave it open and flowing.
The turban is extremely significant for Sikhs because it's an integral part of Sikh identity. It distinguishes Sikh men, and it represents honor and dignity.
The turban is mandatory for a practicing Sikh male and optional for a female. However, those women who do choose to wear the turban have integrated it as part of their identity.
For Sikh boys, they typically wear what we call a patka. It's essentially a square piece of cloth, and it's used as a head covering. Sikh girls don't have something like that, so you will see Sikh boys are distinguishable from the crowd.
Patkas and turbans both come in various different styles and colors. that reflect a personal preference.
The turban is a long piece of cloth, ranging in length from 18 to 24 feet. It is not a hat or a cap that can be removed and put on casually. The turban is prepared and wrapped around the head every day and can take from 7 to 15 minutes to tie. Sikhs keep their head covered at all times. In public, the head is covered with the turban, while at home the head is covered with a smaller under-turban. Asking a Sikh to remove his or her turban in public is akin to a strip search. Public searches of the turban should be avoided. Avoid indiscriminate touching of a Sikh's turban, head, or hair. Avoid forcibly removing the turban of a Sikh. Airport security screening protocols may be different from security screening at other facilities. Sometimes a passenger may still be required to undergo additional screening for other prohibited items. If a removal or search of a Sikh's turban is necessary, explain why. If possible, have an officer of the same gender as the Sikh individual bring the person to a private location and ask them to remove their turban themselves. If the turban must be removed, provide a piece of cloth to cover the head. A Sikh communal place of worship is called a gurdwara, and it varies in architecture from large and elaborate to small and simple. Gurdwaras can be readily identified by a triangular orange flag on the property. Inside are a number of functional areas, such as a congregational hall, community kitchen, eating area, and a place for Sunday school. The Sikh scripture is called the Guru Granth Sahib. This sacred text is the Sikh's eternal living guru and is regarded with utmost reverence. Sikhs remove their shoes and cover their heads before entering the congregational hall and community kitchen. Tobacco or alcohol products of any kind are prohibited from the Gurdwara property. When visiting a Sikh place of worship, be respectful of these Sikh sensibilities. Unless there are overriding safety and security concerns, follow this protocol should you visit a Gurdwara. However, in circumstances where removal of shoes and covering of head is not possible, ask about another meeting location. If investigating a burglary or vandalism of a Sikh American home, be aware that many Sikh homes also have a room set aside for prayer, where they keep the Guru Granth Sahib. Exhibit the same respect for this place as you would for the communal place of worship. Should you need to enter this room, remove your shoes and cover your head.
Punjabi is the native language for Sikhs. Most Sikhs speak Punjabi as well as English. Sikhs who don't speak English may require assistance, and the best thing to do is contact the Sikh American community to provide translation services for those that are not fluent in English.
Now that you have a basic awareness and knowledge about Sikhs, let's take a moment to conclude and review some highlights of this presentation. As stated earlier, officer safety is paramount. These recommendations are for non-emergency and non-crisis situations only. Departments are encouraged to have discussions about the appropriate handling of religious articles of faith. The 5 articles of faith and the turban are mandated religious items that are fundamental to a Sikh's identity. When interacting with Sikh Americans, be respectful and sensitive to these Sikh articles of faith. If you have a reason to confiscate any of the 5 articles of faith or the turban, handle them with respect and store them in a safe and clean place. The turban is an integral part of a Sikh's identity. If removal of the turban is necessary, explain the reason and have the person remove the turban him or herself in a private room. If you take a Sikh into custody and need to confiscate the turban, provide a piece of cloth to cover the head. It is important to note that not all Sikhs wear the kirpan. However, if you have a reason to inspect the kirpan, respectfully ask for it to be shown. If confiscating the kirpan is necessary, explain why and store it in a clean place. In a federal facility, refer to your office's standard operating procedure for further guidance regarding the kirpan. If you are a police officer, review your department's policies for handling of the kirpan. Avoid forcibly cutting, trimming, or pulling any part of a Sikh's hair or beard. Avoid forcibly removing the kara. Some Sikhs may have worn it for many years, and so removal may not be possible.
Thank you.
When entering a Sikh Gurdwara, consult with officials of the Gurdwara about specific areas where removal of shoes and head covering may not be necessary. Maintain respect for the Sikh scripture, the Guru Granth Sahib. Avoid touching the scripture.
You know, we're often asked, what relevance does cultural competency have to do with law enforcement? And the reality of that is that misconceptions can lead to a lot of circumstances that are law enforcement oriented. That it sounds non-traditional, it sounds like it's not a law enforcement issue. But look around us and you have language issues that could lead to officer safety problems. You have visual issues where people look different. You have worship issues where we have a multitude of houses of worship of different kinds in this country and county now. And we all live together remarkably well, but we know remarkably little about each other. The more we know about each other, the safer we're going to be around each other, the more we're going to appreciate ourselves, the similarities and the differences, and understand that we're mostly the same.
Police officers have an expectation that people in their community will have an understanding of the job that they do every day. As police leaders, we should have an expectation that law enforcement officers in our communities understand the cultures of the people that they serve.